Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is Best in Slot, and in tonight's video we're going to take a look at the upcoming Planet Zoo free update, what I assume is update 1.4. This update is going to focus on one thing in particular by the looks of things, and that is overly happy children. No, that is indeed animal talks, a feature that was teased in the trailer for Planet Zoo all those months, years ago when the game first came out. There was an educator, an animal educator, giving like a little lecture, and it never made it into the game, probably because of time constraints and stuff like that. It happens, but it is going to be added in a free update, which I suspect will hit before the end of December. So let's take a little look at what that update is going to include. We've got all the details, and I'll also link it down below if you want to check it out for yourselves. At the end of the video, we'll talk very quickly about what's going on with Planet Zoo on the channel and what the ideas for the future are. So let's get started. Heyo zookeepers! Over the next few weeks, we will be revealing what we have been working on since the Australia pack. We can't wait for you all to see. Today we wanted to take the opportunity to tell you about a new feature the team have been working on, added into the game for free. Think you'll be excited for Animal Talks. Now, Animal Talks are staple activities in zoos where educators share insight into the animals housed at their zoos and share more about conservation efforts. Like in real life, we wanted these Animal Talks to benefit both your guests and your zoos. Let's go into detail about how they work so you can get an idea of how to use them in Planet Zoo. So before we talk too much about it, let's just find out on a basic level how these things are going to function. I really like the pandas. Well done, pandas. So you want to set up a talk about pandas, okay? When you'd like to set up an area for a talk about pandas to happen, you'll need to place an animal talk point. These points need to be placed near a habitat barrier or an exhibit to work correctly. They function similarly to other education items and need to be in range of what they are educating guests about. Make sure you provide enough space on the path for the animal talk, as once guests join to spectate, they can take up a fair amount of room on the path. Who can blame them? People are big these days. Who wouldn't be excited to learn more about the wonderful animals you have in your zoos? Animal Talks work a similar way to education boards, where you need to set them up for a certain type of animal. Once you've set up the area, hire an educator, new staff member type, that's pretty cool, who will be hosting the Animal Talks. You can schedule the talks, and if you do it well, have one educator take care of multiple talks throughout a year. After guests gather around to watch the animal talk, the educator will commence the session. You'll see some animals who walk over to see what all the commotion is about. That's adorable. And if you're lucky, sometimes join in. What? If you see the animal talk point up so that the back of it is towards the habitat and there are no obstructions, such as water, then the educator may also throw food into the habitat during the talk. Depending on the animal species, this will not be available for every animal. That's really cool, actually. That's a little cheeky extra detail I wasn't expecting. So two things to focus in on there. A, the educator feeding the animals, I think is really good. You know, we can zoom in, watch our educator go blah 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 blah, and then occasionally, you know, chuck in a chunk of meat or some rhubarb or whatever people are into. I love rhubarb and meat, so so that's really cool. But what I'm interested about is you'll see some animals also walk over to see what the commotion about. That's pretty cool. So if you're doing a talk here, everyone's gathering around to listen to this woman. The pandas will trot over and have a little look. And if you're lucky, sometimes join in. That's what I'm curious about. Is that going to be making noises to join in? Is that going to be doing certain animations when the entertainer, the educator I should say, talks about them? That's a very interesting little thing there. We'll have to see how that plays out. Maybe it's mentioned again. With the animal talks comes a new information panel. Each talk can be set up for one habitat or exhibit and one species of animal. Through this panel you can enable and disable talk points, pick an animal species, pick a month to schedule the talk. It takes place annually. That seems unusual. I suppose months move very, very fast in the game, so it makes a bit more sense, at least if you're playing on default speed. Assign an educator to this point, assign the animal talk to a work zone, select the music which plays while the talk is not in use, and see if your placement of the animal talk point will allow your educator to throw food in. A lot of information, kind of what we've come to expect from Planet Zoo. If there's one thing it's really good at, is enabling that level of micromanagement, if that's what you really want. I am curious about the month to schedule the talk, because on the last little one we looked at, it said if you do it correctly, your person could do multiple talks a year. You'd think they'd be doing it daily. It seems a bit odd, like, yeah, my entire job is 3 times a year I talk about a hippo. Oh god, that'd be such a cool job. I want to talk about hippos. I could talk about hippos. There is also a new management tab for animal talks. In this tab you can see all your talks, where they are, what the habitat type is, the assigned habitats, the assigned animal species, the month the talk is scheduled, as I say, and the work zones assigned. So I guess the idea is, let's say you have a talk in January, you can't then have a talk in February from the same person because the months do bleed into each other pretty quickly. But let's say you assigned one in April, then maybe your educator could go have a break for a couple of months and then come back and talk about hippos in April, basically. This is the last bit now. There are a few things to keep in mind for the animal talks. Educators with higher training increase the happiness and education that guests receive, which benefits your zoos through donations. An animal talk will be cancelled if they do not turn up within the prep period, which is used to gather around guests, or the talk duration. Be mindful of your scheduling as well. One educator can do several talks. You'll need to carefully plan to prevent your talks from being cancelled. An animal talk point will disable if their habitat or animal is invalid, so keep an eye on them while you move animals around your habitats. We hope you've enjoyed learning about our animal talks. I did plan to, thank you. And we'll be revealing when you can get your hands on them in-game in just a few weeks. We can't wait to show you what else we've been working on, and we're looking forward to ending this year on a high note. With you all. Yeah, I said that perfectly correctly. Make sure to stay tuned to our official channels for any news and announcements. So, we're looking forward to ending this year on a high note with you all. Is that because they're going to talk about the next patch? Is that because they're going to reveal more information? Or is that because we're going to get a DLC? I can't quite remember when the Australia pack came out. It's not been that long, so I would be surprised if we're getting another pack already. I think what this is suggesting, it says we're going to be revealing when you can get your hands on them in-game in just a few weeks. Now, all the other major updates have dropped with a DLC, so I think we can expect a new DLC pack to come along with this, which is obviously really, really exciting, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I think that suggests, a few weeks, that's mid-December at the earliest, so the chances are they're not going to drop it right over Christmas. So I'd imagine maybe mid-January for this update, along with the DLC. But of course, if we do find out any more information, when we get that information about when we can expect this, I will let you know right here on the channel. Now, let's talk very quickly about the DLC before we talk about the other stuff. I have very little idea about what this DLC could be. It feels like they've hit the three major targets. The South America pack was all the rainforest. They've had the Arctic pack, which was, Arctic, and they've had the Australia pack, which had the arid desert and brought in some very necessary animals like kangaroos. What is missing, really? We could have a European pack. We have a lack of European animals, but there's not that many exciting ones. There's some pretty cool ones, but not that many. North America pack, we're definitely missing some over there, but North America and Africa already have a lot of animals. So if you ignore North America and Africa just for that sake, then it becomes quite difficult to figure out where else are you going to get our next set of animals from. We could do an Asian animal pack, but same thing, we already have a lot of Asian animals. So I think at this point the chances are the next pack will bring in things we've already seen to some extent. Not necessarily, I don't mean like replica animals or anything like that, but maybe a pack that supplements an existing area, essentially. It could be something entirely different. It could be underwater themed, it could be bird themed, we have no idea really what's on the way. Right, so we do have one more screenshot actually, which I was meant to show you at the end. There we go. This woman is having the time of her life. Apologies about the screenshot quality. They always post them in super small size, so I have to blow them up. She's kind of growling while she's talking about the pandas. Maybe that's the kind of thing they're talking about. So she goes, pandas can, kill rogue bamboo in 20 minutes. And then she goes, urgh. Or in reality she goes, blah, 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 urgh. And then maybe the panda will growl or claw at the air or something like that to kind of match what she's doing. I don't know how that's going to play out. Right, so before we go, I do want to talk briefly about Planet Zoo because it seems a bit weird to do an update video when I don't really play the game that much anymore. I still adore Planet Zoo. It's creative and it's got adorable animals and it's one of my favourite games ever. I really, really love the game. But I burned myself out pretty hard with the big zoos. I think that was pretty obvious. Diardus Arand, was way bigger than all the other zoos, and I just don't think it suits me. I don't want to spend time on guest areas and staff and stuff like that. I just want to build cool exhibits. So What we're going to do is, or what my plan is over the next couple of days, hopefully by tomorrow, but we'll see, is I'm basically going to neaten off what we've already done in the artist around. I might stick in a lion exhibit, we'll see. It'd be a very simple one though. But I'm going to basically close it off. I'm going to put boundaries on areas where you're not meant to go. We're going to neaten things up and make it so it's a complete zoo, just not with all the animals that were meant to be in there, if that makes sense. That's my idea. Hopefully I can give that a few hours before the end. And then we're going to do a zoo tour, because at the end of the day, it's got many hours in, probably 100 hours in or something stupid. And I'd like to show it off a little bit, because I am proud of what we've done. So we're going to do a zoo tour and then just close it off. The plan going forward after that, we'll probably go back to taking a break. When the next DLC comes out, I'd like to be able to actually focus on the DLC. I have not done a cassowary habitat, or a kangaroo habitat, or a dingo habitat, or any of it. I've not played with any of the new animals because I was too focused on the African zoo, and I didn't want to diverge from that in the middle of it. So it'd be really nice when a DLC comes out to just build like a mini zoo. You know, if we were going to do it for Australia, we'd do like a little 3 to 4 animal zoo, something like that. And we might even go back and do that before the next DLC comes out. So small zoos, individual themed habitats, stuff like that is definitely where we're going in the future. I'm going to try to avoid building a mega zoo because I'm just not made for it, I don't think. But I'd love to get back to playing the game and doing more content on it. So keep an eye out for that. I'll let you know more in the near future. You might see videos pop up. But if not, next DLC, we're going to build exhibits. We're going to build like a little tiny zoo. Stuff like that. Hopefully that makes sense to people. I know people might be a little bit disappointed the African zoo is stopping, but you know, we did loads of videos, we did loads of work in it. Just pretend that we were never going to put the other animals in anyway. And maybe down the line we'll do like a series where we build... Ooh, I like this idea, I've just thought of this. We'll do a playlist where all we do is build like a themed habitat for each animal in the game, and we'll just do one by one by one by one by one. Maybe... I don't know, we'd have to come up with theme weeks or something like that. Or you guys can set challenges that I'll try to do, and I don't know, we'll just have fun with it. We'll see what happens though. I'd like to still do something like that down the line. Either way, thank you so much for joining me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you lovely folks next time. Stick around on the channel for lots more Planet Zoo news and hopefully content going forward. Cheers, much love as always. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye.